Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this special bulletin. More often than not, when it comes to entertainment media, when something comes out that is so much of a hit with the fan base and the general public at large, that you talk about it for months and years and even a decade to come. We've seen this time and time again. Something that hits with the audience, with the sign of the times. It's so popular that even normies who don't normally partake in one genre or the next will know what you're talking about. We see this with Halo, with Star Wars, Star Trek, etc. And it's it's common, it's seen, it's understandable why there's discussion around it. And then other times when a piece of media comes out, let's say a video game that is such an astronomical failure, lands flat like a wet fart in a car with the fans, that some reason, somehow, it keeps rearing its wonderful, ugly little head over and over and over again, despite its complete and total lack of popularity across the general public. And of course, leave it to Kotaku, the bastion of journalistic integrity in the video game industry, to complain again about the lack of popularity of the Dragon Age Veilguard. In this lovely little article, let's see what they have to say. I didn't even know Dragon Age Day was a thing. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed the first few games, fell off track because of real life circumstances, and then Veilguard came out and went, "Ooh, let's see what this is." And then the marketing went, "Oh, that's what this is." I tried it, I played it, got bored, nonsense, noped out. Anyway, Dragon Age Day comes and goes in complete silence. I can't imagine why. Just 1 year after the astronomical failure that Veilguard was. This comes after a ton of internal strife before, during, and after Dragon Age the Veilguard. Kenneth Shepard, the wonderful author of this gem. December 4th is Dragon Age Day. Again, I wasn't even aware of that. Call me a fake fan all you want to. The unofficial day fans of Bioware's fantasy RPG anthology celebrate the series that they just kind of left fall to the wayside. Left fall to the wayside. What was the Veilguard? Last year, the studio earnestly participated because they had a game that they were trying to promote and push out. Hmm. Veilguard was only about a month old at the time. So BioWare released the game's incredible character creator. Incredible. That's what you called it. The promotional material behind the character creator was, look at my top surgery scars, look at my vitiligo, look at my pronouns, and this, that, and the other. Something that apparently the Dragon Age fans at large weren't even remotely interested in. And then more information came out that not only most people wouldn't have a problem with adding it, but it's what they took away. Other female character proportions that were removed from the game, taken away and thrown to the wayside, that few people had a problem with. Broke down early player choices on social media. I think with the amount of time I spent, although very little compared to some, because I wasn't wasting my time on that when I have better things to do, the lack of choice, the lack of consequences for your choice. I remember other Dragon Age games where if you piss off your companions, they left you. Your companions would argue back and forth, and if you didn't calm things down, one or the other would leave. That did not happen and could not happen in the Veilguard. That's a problem. That takes your immersion out of it. There wasn't a peep from the studio on the matter because they were too busy rebuilding the studio after. Did the studio and the employees responsible for Veilguard get let go or shut down? So many shutdowns and so many firings across the gaming industry as of late that it's kind of hard to keep track of. Not even a single mention of the franchise that they destroyed that once won Best Game at the Game Awards. Whose fault is that? If you look at BioWare's Dragon Age social accounts, the last time the studio used the game's X account was to repost an ad for Veilguard in the EA Play on August 28th. Probably because they had nothing better to do and they were desperate at the time. Developers' official blog's last post was November 7th, celebrating Mass Effect's holiday and 7-day. So they're more interested in pushing Mass Effect because that's the next game they're going to try to push out, if it even sees the light of day, with all the purchases, I believe. Wonder what's going to happen with that. Had a small update on the upcoming 5th game in the Amazon television series. Oh Lord, that's gonna be something else when it comes out, isn't it? You'll find no such post about Dragon Age. Why would you want to talk about a failure of a project? Why? Truly. Bioware admitted it's become a one-game studio after massive... Oh, so there were massive layoffs. But the game was great. The game was successful. The franchise is just doing oh so well with the general public. And why were there layoffs? We have those questions all the time, but nobody seems to want to answer. There is no 5th Dragon Age game in the works, nor is there an expansion. Again, I wonder why that is. We all know it's a rhetorical question. We know the answer. Dragon Age the Veilguard, again, landed like a fart in a locked car. No interest, lack of interest, negativity, an absolute abomination of writing and gameplay mechanics, in my opinion. Why on earth would they want to put more money if it's going to be more of the same? If you're only passively paying attention, I'm trying to forget Veilguard even existed, wipe that from my mind, but these articles continue to rear their ugly head. Articles blaming the fan base, blaming YouTubers for their misogynistic blah, 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 transphobic this, when it's nothing more than piss poor writing, piss poor development, piss poor world building over and over again. Why would anybody want more of the same? It might make sense for the studio to not make a big deal about a series without a sequel. It's actively promoting. Again, why would they want to put money into a failed project? But for fans and developers who spent decades working on Dragon Age and ruining it, as far as the developers go, it's another insult to beloved games that you tanked, that seemed to sometimes get the short end of the stick, that they picked out themselves. They singled out and they picked it out themselves over troubled development. Ah, yes, the troubled development, wanting to make the game a game as a service, a live service game. Dragon Age as a live service game. If they'd have gone down that path, I think it would have failed even harder than it actually ended up failing. In the months before Bioware was gutted of veteran talent, Dragon Age the Veilguard was thrown under the bus. No, Dragon Age the Veilguard was jumped under the bus. It went there willingly by the developers, by the coders, by the writers, with, when you have a character like Tosh, people complain about the look of Tosh. The look of Tosh was the least of Tosh's problems. Primarily, it was the writing, the dialogue, over and over again. Nonsensical dialogue did not fit in the Dragon Age world. That is where Tosh failed. You get better writers, more experienced writers who, I don't know, more entertaining. I think Tosh would not have been such a bad character, but again, that would mean the entire game as a whole would have been better written. Veilguard's messy production saw the game rebooted from a live service no one wanted. At least you're there to admit that. A live service game that no one wanted. Follow through with the live service and it would have failed harder than it already did. Into a single-player RPG, using that term very loosely, came out feeling like the character-driven epics Bioware associated with, despite being screwed that up. Feeling like the character-driven, it wasn't character, nonsensical writing. After the game didn't reach internal projections, understatement, out of the gate, EA downsized Bioware and was focused the company exclusively on Mass Effect, which, if look at the writing on the wall, I don't see Mass Effect doing any better than Veilguard, than Dragon Age, because the same people are there. Regardless of the layoffs, the downsizing, and whatnot, you still have the core developers there, the core ideologies, ideas, experience that are there that worked on Dragon Age the Veilguard, so they're going to be working on Mass Effect. Do you have faith that the next Mass Effect game is going to be true to the source material? I have my doubts. Perhaps it's the best for Bioware doesn't acknowledge Dragon Age this year because it's a failed game. If the company had even made a tweet or blog post expressing its love for the world of Thedas and pride in having brought it to life, the messaging would have come across as tone-deaf, understatement, after the hell its team reportedly went through. I am so surprised, Kotaku. Let me make sure. At least this way, fans and creatives who made the game get the day to themselves. Without it being co-opted by a studio and publisher that treated them like second-class citizens. It's amazing to find Kotaku writing an article about Dragon Age the Veilguard and actually putting the blame on the people responsible for the game instead of what normally happens, what we're so normally used to, thanks to being Pavlov's dogged into oblivion, blaming the fans, blaming the critics, blaming the YouTubers for their transphobic, misogynistic, bigoted this, bigoted that, hateful this, blah, blah, blah. It's what we're so used to. So I guess I could give a thumbs up to Kotaku for not going down that route. Even a blind dog finds a bone, right? Again, I wasn't aware that Dragon Age Day was a thing. But what are your thoughts? How do you feel about an absolutely failed game? No two ways about it, because if it hadn't failed, it would have an expansion, right? Failures, successes, financial successes for a studio, for a development studio, do not get ignored, do not get thrown under the bus, do not get pushed to the wayside to work on something else. When something is such a massive success, you immediately start working on improving, expanding to make more money. That's just how the industry works. But unfortunately, Dragon Age, the Veilguard, aptly named the Veilguard, was not those things. Point the finger, point the blame at anyone you want to, but ultimately it comes down to the game itself. The writing, the characters, dialogue, the world building or lack thereof, and word of mouth. Regular people play the game, some enjoyed it, some didn't, and they get the word out there. After a while, one voice is louder than the other. And if you think it's all because of the YouTubers and the social media it's such a small microcosm of what pushes sales and what hurts sales. Normies don't care about the nonsense we talk about, but hey, you do. So why don't you let me know what you think in the comment section down below? Leave a like, leave a dislike, all those nifty little things that YouTube beg you to do. And I do hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.